Welcome to part 2 of the Drake Hall tour from Centerville, Iowa. University Museums was pleased to work with both Gerhard and Kyle, the homeowners. And if you missed part 1, you can find that on our YouTube page, or you can find a link to it on our website, www.museums.iastate.edu. University Museums is composed of the Bernier Art Museum, the Christian Peterson Art Museum, the Art on Campus collection of public art that is scattered across campus, and the Anderson Sculpture Garden around Morrill Hall. Finally, the last component is the Farmhouse Museum, Iowa State's oldest building on campus, built in 1860, but depicts the time period of 1860 to 1910. We hope you enjoy part 2.
I'm Kyle Shiroma. I'm born in Hawaii, born and raised. Been in San Diego for 20 years and then moved to Orlando for 5 years. And now we're here in southern Iowa, Centerville.
My name is Gerhard von Spillmann, and I was born in Peru. And I grew up East Coast, New Jersey, and studied at the University of Florida. I studied architecture and building construction. It was built to last. When I looked at the plans and the specs, as was mentioned before, just that it's Bedford limestone, the very hard quartz heavy limestone that they did the DC Capitol building in. The original Ludovici clay tiles, just the woodwork. Not only did I do architecture, but I did building construction, so I when I looked at the plans, you start seeing the size of the floor beams, the thickness of the basement walls, all these things that was, from the beginning, somebody really was trying to build something that was appreciative. And there's a newspaper article that in 1906, they mentioned that this house was going to be built, and it was going to be brick and smaller, and then all of a sudden it morphed into this Anglo-Japanese / prairie modern structure, which seems like a four square with a porch to give it horizontality. You look at the Bedford limestone, it'll have 3 courses of heavy and then 1 banding. And then it's got the curved Japanese, the tympanium like the Japanese temple. So it got both our curiosity. What inspired this place? You know, why this amalgamation of East and West? You know, and then we discovered it's because obviously they took their train because they were part of the railroad, and they went down to St. Louis, and they saw the Japanese village, and they came back and they changed the plans, and it went from a $30,000 budget to a $110,000 budget in 1908. So that was, and they finished it in 1909, and they moved in. So unfortunately, sometimes when things go over budget, what's sacrificed are the finishes, and they just kept on going because not only good bones, but the finishes and the architecture is. And
in the original specifications document, it actually specifies only the finest of each material can even enter the property. Oh. If anything was subpar left on, it would be taken off immediately. Same for the workers, the craftsmen that built this house. Only the masters, no journeymen, no beginners, no learning on this. It had to be the best of the best in every aspect. And I think that's where the budget probably went to.
Yeah, and D.C. Bradley built smaller homes for them, so that, because he honored that they were master craftsmen.
Yeah, I think the specs or some article said that they imported Italian stonemasons to work on the limestone to hand hew all of them on site. We have a photo of it, of them working on the front yard. So we hear people tell us that this is the second grandest home in all of Iowa, aside from the governor's mansion.
So everything's Honduran mahogany.
And they picked the finest grain to show, they didn't just we're just gonna get some wood. No, they picked every panel, every piece of wood to show the grain. It's almost like a grain model.
What I like is that you don't think the arches don't hit you straight on.
They're a surprise.
That's from the 90s
And it's coming out. But I'm afraid that, when everything's done, I'll take it out because I'm afraid what's underneath. But who knows? It could have a fantastic border.
Yeah, or it could be every thread inlaid, who knows,
So the different wood species which is inlaid, it has walnut, mahogany, and golden oak. The main field here is golden oak, but they use a first-class American beech in the bedrooms and with very tight graining. So it's going to have to be all the borders hand sanded. And then the field I'm using, not a drum sander, it's too aggressive because the floors with age are a little slightly wavy. So I use a triple pad or random orbital sander. It takes more time, but it's more gentle on the wood.
And so once it's sanded down and patched up and with wood filler, then the stain gets applied to it.
It gets resanded and then sanded again, and then the conditioner, and then a light buffing, and then the final finish.
No, none of the furnishings are original. Apparently, when Cora Bradley, the last surviving of the original family, or actually her son, sold the house to their cousins in 1938, I think everything was sold off. The carpeting, everything was pretty much stripped. That wasn't tied down or installed. So basically, whatever you see here is a part of our collection. I started collecting about 20 years ago, and my focus was mainly on the American arts and crafts movement, late 1800s, early 1900s, a lot of pottery. I love art pottery, rookwood and that type of groovy and all that type of pottery. So that's mainly the collection that you see here on display.
A lot of this, and that we got it, I know I've done a lot of the talking, comes from Kyle's sense of wonder and wanting to expand and learn. He starts with one thing and then he expands on it. So
it's like a rabbit hole. One thing leads to another and it just never ends. You just keep going down that rabbit hole, which is wonderful, I think.
Yeah, and he likes understanding the cultural influences of things, and I think we go back and forth on that. He taught me a lot about the arts and crafts, and I teach him about more classical proportions and orders, and I have to give the credit to Kyle because he has a very good soul, and he can sense good things that somebody has put into things, and he's made the pottery show a success just because of a lot of the people said we've never had anybody care that much. And I think the house has a soul, and it matches Kyle's soul. The collectors and the dealers are getting older, and I think you want to learn from them. So they're really good, and they teach us things, and we walk around, and we have a nice symbiotic relationship with everybody there, and they teach us about things. And one of the people there is David Rago and he was, made us aware of the fireplace you'll see later and its qualities. So you learn from all of them, So when you spot something, we haven't been to a Goodwill or anything like some people do and found a groovy for $2.99. Haven't been that lucky yet, but we do that, and Kyle also has many groups on Facebook so that a new generation or people learn about different things, whether it's Spanish Revival, Tudor Revival, Second Empire group.
The aesthetic movement, which preceded the arts and crafts movement in the late 1800s.
So I go to bed, instead of counting sheep, I count beep, beep, beep as he's
How many
approving
likes
people.
you get.
Lights, So, that's, let's say the passion found us.
Yeah, so this mantle I found in San Diego and in the States.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, why am I
That's
going
perfect.
So we traveled from San Diego
Yeah.
to Orlando and Orlando to here.
It's tiger maple?
No, tiger oak. It's like a courtesan oak.
Okay.
And it dates to about 1880s.
Okay.
Yeah, very Victorian, late Victorian era. But it has a lot of the classical motifs, like, the acanthus leaves, the egg and dart, like this house has and all that.
Yep.
It totally fits with the house. Late Victorian, early Edwardian. Bringing it down to the human level, which we can all relate to. You don't have to have a lot of money, which a lot of my things are bought, frankly on the cheap, because I have an eye for what quality is. So if I see something and I'm like, that's a really good price for it,
And then you
go for
discover
it.
what it is.
Then I discover what it is and the value of it, the actual
And then
value.
people contribute. They teach us things. They share their items. For example, you all come and we learn from you, and every time somebody's involved, they make you see it something that's right in front of you in a different way. So I think like attracts like, and people that appreciate things make you appreciate not only the things but everything in your life, right?
Exactly.
And each other.
For my social media groups, I started them because I have an appreciation for it. I didn't necessarily know all about it. I just knew that I liked it. So I started it. I learned so much from my own groups. And I think that's why I started it, is to learn more about it and share that enthusiasm about learning about older stuff and appreciating it. The lady of the house. And as you can see, we're in the process of sanding the floors, and the floors are beech, according to the original specs. Old growth beech. Very nice, softer wood, but it's perfect for bedrooms. And this is the same motif of radiator grates that are in all throughout the house. And then originally, so the wall was here. There was a sink here, which they used for the ducting. It goes all the way to the basement because it was a drain for a sink. So each bedroom had its own, just a sink you can wash your face. And these columns were added in 1938, 1937. Stylized daffodils. And daffodils are another popular arts and crafts motif. Louis Comfort Tiffany loved his daffodil motifs. And the bottom texture allows for a bit of privacy. So this was originally a wall here separating the mother's bedroom and the daughter's bedroom. So I guess when Olive purchased the house in 1938, she had this wall removed and she made it into one big room with an ensuite bathroom here in the closet. So we need to strip all of this. And this was the original pasture. So that door on the other side was over there. And so we think that the daughter would, go into the sitting room, read a book or something, Yeah, so we need to patch it up here and there, but it's still pretty intact for the period. So the iridescence is another very arts and crafts aesthetic because it's very understated beauty, and the linden leaf. So we need to do some touch-ups and patching here and there. There's some cracking and paint loss.
Because this hall went to the guest room, so they had to still impress.
Exactly. Yeah, because we were like, oh, this is utilitarian. This is probably the major bathroom, but no, that's. So the guest room, the family's guest room is right here on the right side, and you can still see some of the paneling that used to be in Cora's room. I think there would be a couple of beds here for them, and you can tell because the windows aren't that nice leaded glass. It's just plain windows. So you know that this was, and it's a lower ceiling, so it's very utilitarian for the maids. And this is the maid's bathroom here. So this, again, with all the fixtures on, you're like, what is a small room? But you look at the textured glass, well, there's textured glass behind that as well. But so you know it's a bathroom. So there was a tub here, a sink there, a toilet here, and they would originally come in through here. So these two doors did not exist. So you would come in from the hall. So from the maid's bedroom, she would go into the hall, enter through here, and use the bathroom. So this door was added later, as was that door up there.
So these two doors are tiny.
Yeah, very utilitarian. Nothing fancy for the help. These are the original bathroom tiles under there. So we're gonna take up this carpet, clean it up a bit, and put it back to the bathroom again. The service stairs, get back to the kitchen, is down here.
But they weren't just service stairs because they had many community events that were for the community who weren't what in that period you would consider intimate friends. They wouldn't come in through the main house. They would come in through the door at the driveway, and they would go straight from here up to the ballroom. So
through the porte cochere?
No, that's that way.
Oh.
This one is a side entrance, right?
and it would have a nice awning over it that we have to find a picture to recreate. But all these stairs are good quality beech, and this is painted, but that was originally oak, so it wasn't like a regular servant stairs. So because it was for guests.
Mm-hmm. So these doors will be shut off. Like you could, as a guest coming in through that way, going to the ballroom, you can't go into the house because these doors would be unlocked from that.
So this was a maid's room. Or should I say a room for the staff?
Yes.
Yep.
Service staff.
Exactly. And you can still see some of the gas fixture here. You see the gas light.
Well, DC Bradley and then Olive were both very generous people. And in fact, somebody brought us some books from the turn of the last century, and it talks about it's not the love of money, it's not money that's the root of all evil, it's the love of money for itself. And one of the things that it says you can surround yourself with luxuries, but if you don't show hospitality, then it's not good. Mm-hmm. So we are opening it up to events, and mostly the grounds will be for larger events, and the home will be for us expanding our circle of friends. Mm-hmm. And we had two instances that pushed us that way. One, someone asked to have some prom pictures taken, and it was for the outside, and the wind was blowing the hair all over the place. And they came in, and we just enjoyed this young couple seeing things they've never seen, and it was like her, something ignited in her. And then one day we ended up in a magazine in another instance, and we got this from the magazine, sent us this letter written by Barbara Salato in cursive. So luckily I'm one of the few that reads cursive. So and she mentioned that her sister was a maid here for Olive. Mm-hmm. And one day she would come, she was 9 years old, and Olive said bring her up for tea at 2:00 upstairs. And such a lovely lady with such a vibrancy at 93 years old, we decided to invite her over, and she was so appreciative, and all these wonderful memories flooded of how nice she was treated, which shows about the energy of the house and the people. And she mentioned about that 2:00 tea, and then we said, well, why don't you bring your friends and you can have a 2:00 tea, and now you can be the lady of the house. And I think that type of event is more gratifying than something just a pure business sense. Of course, we're going to have to do stuff because it is a big house, and quality of materials demands quality of materials for any repair and stuff. And we're having to go small town USA. You have to go expand your radius to get qualified people to come in and work on the mechanicals and things. And that's our plan, to have events for the house, not to maintain us, not to give us vacations and things like that, because this is our constant staycation, and for the benefit of the house, and also maybe draw tourism or interest on other properties in town that are architecturally significant and need a little love and care. Not someone just trying to milk it till they collapse.
And this one doesn't look like the Taj Mahal. There are wallpaper that looks like Taj Mahal. And then the border here. The Persian. And then the border here, and then the rest like
It's like the kind of almost arabesque.
Yeah. So you're in a tent.
Well, this is the ballroom. It's the one that accesses directly by visitors from the outside, from the north side of the house. Originally, it had a balcony there and a balcony over there for when there was events that could be opened up and people would get fresh air and they could go out to the balcony. And the first owner's wife, Cora, and she would hold meetings here for women's voting rights as early as 1910.
And the daughter is married.
Yeah.
The wedding reception was in the reception entry hall downstairs, and then the party afterwards was held here in the ballroom. So,
Hey, one-stop shopping.
I know. Yeah. These are a lot more wider than a normal servant's, backstairs. Usually it's like this wide and super steep. So you know that it wasn't made only for the help, it was made for party goers to go to the ballroom. And then these service areas have this kind of curved finish to them, like here and here. I guess in case they had like a cart or something, they would bump the corners. This is the service hall. It goes out to the main entrance. So this is the sun porch. Looking at pictures from 1921, it was done in a very craftsman, kind of like a rustic cabin feel to it almost. And the furnishings were very stickly-esque, very craftsman style furniture. And so I just happened to have in my collection all of this stickly style furniture, which fit perfectly in this room. So it's as if it's meant to be. A lot of this table here, the dinner table, is made in the 90s, I think, from Restoration Hardware when they had their kind of stickly period in the 90s. It's made of solid quarter-sawn oak. And that there is actually a real Gustav Stickley rocking chair from about 1905. And that I found that on Craigslist, believe it or not, in San Diego. I think I paid $40 for it, which normally it goes for about $400 to $500. And it came with a footstool, which is very rare to find. And it's also done in quarter-sawn oak. And I think they've been together since it was bought brand new in 1905. And again, it goes well with the period of the house being built in 1909. But a lot of this collection of hammered copper I had in San Diego from about 2009, 2010 is when I kind of started collecting. And it just fits in this room perfectly. You got the tiles, the floor tiles, it's all original.
Mm-hmm.
And these stained glass windows here, I found on eBay. And they were from a salvage from a bungalow in Chicago, I believe. And it dates to about 1910, 1915, around there. And it's in the very stylized arts and crafts.
And then just tell me a little bit about what your future plans are for the home.
100 years from now to haunt the place, and if anybody
Never leave.
Anybody starts ripping anything out, there, a gate to hell will open for them. Or they paint the wood.
Off the wallpaper.
Yeah, that's basically our plans for our literally forever home. We're not here to flip it or anything. We're here to wake up every day and notice something new and want to contribute to it and the town in some way.
As you notice throughout the video, there are similar objects to objects that are on exhibition currently at the Farmhouse Museum. This includes the beautiful pottery collection of Rookwood pottery, Weller pottery, Fulper, and Van Briggle. You'll see examples throughout the exhibition of these different types of potteries. They're mainly Midwestern potteries. Also, you'll see examples of lighting in the Tiffany style, including the Tiffany light right next to me, which is a new acquisition to the permanent collection and resides here at the Farmhouse Museum. You'll see furnishings, you'll see decor, and you'll also experience what life was like in the time period of the arts and crafts movement. Specifically, the arts and crafts movement at Drake Hall focuses on Japanese or Anglo-Japanese influence, while the farmhouse is more of a rural, Iowa-focused arts and crafts installation. So preservation at a historic home and historic house museum is always paramount. The Farmhouse Museum is on the National Historic Registry, and so it is a definite concern for us to make sure that it is preserved for the future. Kyle and Gerhard also have a passion for preservation. And so some of the projects that they have worked on, like selecting wallpapers, refinishing floors, and making sure windows and doorways are up to standard, up to code, but also in keeping with historic moments and historic time periods, we also do that at the Farmhouse Museum. You'll see that we have gone through and redone wallpaper, and that's a continuing process. We've got processes for the future that include roof work, painting. It's an ongoing affair, keeping a National Historic place in its best shape. One major difference to note is that the homeowners in Centerville at Drake Hall actually live within the space. But does anyone live here at the farmhouse? Nope, just the museum staff and interns that come through on the daily basis to make sure that the farmhouse is open for the best experience for you to enjoy. Thanks for watching part 2 of the Drake Hall tour. If you missed part 1, don't forget it's available on our YouTube page, or you can access it on our museum website, www.museums.iastate.edu. Thank you again to our lenders and donors and funders. And thanks again to Kyle and Gerhard for letting us in their home.